What is up, guys? Welcome to a brand new video. So I haven't actually done a top 5 for top laners in months, but finally like a lot has changed, so I kind of wanted to go into it. This video, by the way, is all about if you want to climb and carry hard for the end of the season to push. Let me know what you think about these or your secret top laner that you're using, and I'll include some timestamps down below as well. We're going to look at the top 5, my surprise pocket pick, and also some honorable mentions as well. But we all know, right, League is full of boosted animals. The best way to get to that next tier is to play champions that can hard carry, or at least find a way to play like that, and that is what I've tried to look at most in this video. So for number 5, the meta is very carry focused, right, but tanks are kind of becoming much better now with the influx of AD and carries absolutely everywhere. In my opinion, tanks are like the easiest way to win a team fight and kind of get carried, I guess. It's a different style of carrying, really, like carry by not dying and let your team kill stuff in the meantime. I know it's kind of weird, but sometimes it's just as good as being full damage and killing stuff yourself. If you get ahead, you get early resist as well, way quicker than the enemy can get damage, and that just means they cannot kill you at all. They can't keep up. Tanks are actually the most effective, I'd say, before like 30 minutes into the game. I think like people don't have an answer yet, and they just need kind of time and items before they can kill you. When you group as well here, you get like early dragons, towers and stuff, just because you can absorb damage and not die, plus you have like the base damage or crowd control to still impact the fight. You notice I haven't actually mentioned a champion yet, and that is because there is 3. So Sion, Malphite and Poppy are the best at doing this at the moment, I think. These 3 are all kind of on the same level and just really good tanks. I guess Sion to start with is probably a bit of a surprise. He's decent in lane, he does some damage, but just lasts forever in a team fight. He's really hard to kill. He has good engage and disruption as well, like good crowd control. Malphite has one of the best engages in the game, right? Way to the back line with damage and a lot of defense as well. And to be honest, I hate this champion. If they get ahead, right? If a Malphite gets ahead, which isn't too hard for him to do either, I don't think, then you can just never ever kill him. He's good versus champions like Yasuo, Riven, Irelia because of the armor stack and also the attack speed reduction. So with like a gank, right? He can easily get ahead, he can get fed, and you've got no hope of killing him. Poppy is like a mix between the two, I guess. Mix of tank and carry, and you can do decent damage early, but you're still a pain to deal with. A lot of crowd control, right, and disruption makes her annoying at the very least, but one of the tanks you can actually do a bit more, I guess. Like you're a bit more proactive and skill-based rather than just absorbing damage. So let's move on to number 4, Irelia. She's good, but in my opinion, a bit more matchup dependent than the others on this video, the ones higher than her. Late game, if you get ahead, it's just perfect, right? You stomp over everyone, you can easily kill the enemy AD carry, but if you don't get ahead, you're kind of in trouble. You're not going to be as useful as the others. She does crap on Kennen. She's pretty good versus Jace as well, which is good for like the meta in general, but still a lot of picks you don't want to go up against, really, like a Darius, for example. She is also banned a lot as well. It's not really ideal for climbing because you're not going to be able to play her a ton. You want to get comfortable on a champion and play her game after game after game. That is how you make something habit. She's kind of similar to Riven though, I think, like with a high skill ceiling, so it's easy to play to start at basic level, right? You just press your buttons and you right click and you kill stuff. She is harder though as you get better with her, not just like mechanically either, but it's kind of like using your brain. I know this is going to sound really weird. It's like your jukes, your ultimate, like how you use that to prep minions to jump to, your sheen procs, your stun, like when to go in and fight. Not really that hard to press buttons, but it's working out what to do. She's in a bit of an odd spot though, because other picks do more damage, but Irelia is a bruiser, to be honest. Like she's tanky with damage, and at the moment the meta is shifting more to one or the other, not like both in the middle, but she does still have a place. As I said, the big thing with Irelia is you get ahead and it's a very easy game. That's good to have. It means you can focus on winning your lane, and if you do, you'll always have a chance to do something. Number 3 is Riven. So she's still a massive powerhouse, and arguably you could put her number 1 and I wouldn't say you're crazy. Like I think she could go there. She just stacks damage and gets more durability at the same time. So if she does get ahead, she's just going to kill everybody and be hard to deal with as well. If you have enough experience on a Riven, I think you can always do a lot of work because you can win most matchups. Like you can impact the game when you're ahead or behind. As I said, like she's got quite a high skill ceiling, so yes, she can kind of be easy to play to start with, but there's so much to learn with her. Animation cancelling, the right way to weave your autos, you just keep getting better. I think it's very hard to play against a fed Riven, honestly, and I feel like they could kind of 1v5 if they are good enough. If they flash in at the right time or if they do the right thing, then I think they can just kill everybody. This is something a bit different as well, but she actually is a natural target in my opinion, which is going to help your team out. Whenever I play against Riven, I always try and camp her because Riven players in general are nasty when they get ahead, like they're quite scary, and also because Riven players tend to tilt more. In most of the games where I have a Riven, they do get camped quite hard, and that just means it relieves pressure on the entire rest of the map because the jungler is in that lane and they're not in the other, so it actually helps your team out. The reason she's not number 1, probably the biggest thing, is because Kennen has come back up and he's really strong at the moment. He knocks it down a peg because that matchup is just not very fun at all. The harass is really hard to deal with. So number 2 is Jace, and I hate playing against this guy at the moment. His poke is crazy. His all-in damage really hurts as well. He is an early to mid-game champion, but if you get fed, it's almost impossible to stop him. And a lot, because of this, has actually started to skip their tier now. Normally you get your tier, you'd upgrade it and you'd spam it and stuff like that, but really you aren't a late-game champion, and that is a ramping item. You don't really want that. You want instant power. The whole idea with Jace is you would roam around, you snipe, you force towers, you force fights, and that's really hard to play against when he is really fed and you're not, basically. I think he's the second best for me because if you win your lane, which is not that hard, then you can legit 1v5 from range and just win the game, and that's what makes him so deadly. All you gotta do is focus on winning your lane. You do that and you stand a real chance of winning the entire game. And people say like all the time, well, I won my lane but I couldn't carry, and Jace is not gonna have that problem. I think the poke damage early does a ton, and there's no real way to deal with it. So like as a mid or an AD, like you can't stop your top lane and losing his lane, right? But you have to deal with that poke to face in fights. Really as well, apart from like him being bad or you dodging, there's no actual way to deal with Jace except engaging onto him, and that's relying on your team. And even then he does damage in his hammer form as well, when he's that close to you. It's also kind of hard to do that if you're behind. Like he's basically the best champion at punishing a team if they're behind and not giving them time to get back into it. So number 1 is actually going to be Kennen. I don't think this is a surprise because I mentioned him a couple of times in this video, but in my opinion, these top 3 are actually very close together. Kennen is just very hard to play against at the moment and a seriously good laner, but he's also good in team fights. He is good versus Riven, as I said. Like she is the most popular top lane at the moment, and he just kind of pokes her down. The all-in is good as well, so that's kind of naturally going to boost his win rate. Kennen can easily hard carry a game though, in my opinion, and he does so much damage. Like Proto Belt with Zhonya's is a disgusting combo. You Proto Belt in, you ult, you Zhonya's, and they can't even kill you. There's always had this problem with Kennen where he couldn't get into fights if he didn't have his flash, but now he doesn't have that as much because Proto Belt he can use every single fight, plus flash if he needs to. His damage is probably the most important thing here, really, like making him number 1. Like with 1 or 2 items, it's still insane. He dives carries at the back line and he just absolutely ruins them. There's 2 things though with actually diving into a team fight. So 1, he probably kills them. That's always nice, right? But number 2, he actually has like a zoning capability, I guess. The backline has to run away and they waste so much time in a fight doing nothing. If your team like dove into the fight, they're now on the other side of Kennen and they can't like be helped at all. Yes, the Kennen ult is damage obviously, but it's also an amazing zone tool, and it kind of like keeps the enemy team out of a fight so you can focus on the ones that dove in. So there are a couple of others. Jarvan Top is my pocket pick for this one. So it's a specific build, Titanic Hydra and a Black Cleaver. I personally prefer Titanic first as well. After that, you'll basically get tanks, so you could get more Mortius for magic resist or like a Banshees, Deadman, stuff like that, but he can still one-shot people with those 2 items even though he's kind of tanky. Basically, it's like the best of both worlds and super good. Like he survives longer, he still does the damage. I don't really see a downside to this build, honestly. Team fights, you're going to dive the back line, right? You assassinate, but you don't instantly die. That is the extra part with this build. Late game is so underrated in my opinion, and also early. Mid game is kind of poop. That is the only downside to him. He's another pick really that can carry hard though, just because you do the damage, but you also have this massive game impact. He's like hard to play against in the lane phase, easy to punish opponents who get too close, good roams, good lane. Like there aren't many downsides except your mid game lull where others might overtake for a little bit, but then you catch back up. The honorable mentions for me though: 1, Rumble, harder to play than most others, but I think he'll still be super strong. He does a lot of work in the lane phase, can 1v2 actually if he gets the lead with his ultimate, which is ridiculous. People still don't really understand how Rumble works at all. They don't understand the heat or anything like that, so you can abuse that and just like punish people who don't get it. Darius is another one who I've always said is kind of the best top laner recently, but the meta has just kind of shifted a bit. So Kennen and Riven actually dick on Darius right now, especially with any jungle pressure. He really just gets screwed. He's too easy to kite around basically. This meta is way more team fight focused. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but there are so many more team fights now. He is super good, super strong in lane, but he's not a very good team fighter. There's just 2 I want to highlight because if you really want to go for a late game, I guess you want to go for your Jax. If you want to go for early game, then you want to go for Renekton. These 2 are just really good at what they're supposed to do, I guess. Jax is this super late game hyper carry who just does a ton of damage and can basically 1v5 the game. Renekton is one that can just really solo carry from the lane phase. I just kind of wanted to highlight these 2 because I don't think they really get enough credit. Like I know they're not very well rounded, like Renekton's early, Jax is kind of late, but if that's what you want, if those are the kind of picks that you want, your playstyle and stuff, these 2 are the best for it. I know a lot of you are trying to get like the next tier before the end of the season, and honestly my advice is just play what you're good at. But if you can play a bunch of different things, or you're good at some of the picks on this video, then pick these up and they will make it much easier. That's gonna wrap up this video though, so let me know what you think about these picks. Thank you for watching until the end, but for now let's go to the robots.